Welcome to the Beyond Divorce Embracing Change podcast. My name is Michael Flores, and I will be your host while we explore the complex journey of divorce with empathy, insight, and practical knowledge. Whether you're contemplating separation, in a divorce, or looking for support post-divorce, our episodes provide expert guidance, stories, and strategies to help you through every step of the process. We are actual therapists, helping clients who sit on our couches every day through their difficulties of divorce. You are not alone. Join us as we delve in and find solutions that give you hope again. We're glad you're here.
This podcast is not intended to replace legal or personal help. This podcast is for informational purposes only.
Well, good day, everyone, and welcome back to this podcast series. What we've been doing recently, and I have Jen here with us today.
Hello.
Jen, what we've been doing recently is we've been playing the most popular episodes over the last week or so, and so a couple of weeks. But I think we wanted to do that for listeners to kind of go, hey, this is what people are finding helpful.
Yeah.
We want to make sure it's back out there for you. It's always good to kind of get a recap of things, I think. We try
Exactly.
to keep, we try to keep the podcast at a good time frame for people so that they don't, have to listen to hours on end of a certain topic.
Yeah.
But they get just enough, as Janon calls it,
Yeah.
just enough.
I actually just listened to the one on our success stories that was really cool.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I really enjoyed that one.
That was a good one.
Because it makes you feel good when things work well.
Yeah, I think Armando had that idea. It's like we should probably do something a little bit kind of a pick you up thing too. And I think today's actually will be good because we're talking about two specific emotions that kind of go together. And we're talking about love and hate and being the fact that there's near enemies and far enemies. And love and hate is like what we call a far enemy because they're so different on the spectrum. And a near enemy would be like love and attachment. And I know we're going to get into that in a second. So I have to give credit to Brené Brown. I mean, that's the one who really turned
inspired this topic.
She really did. And it came from a book she had written called Atlas of the Heart.
Yes.
And it's a really amazing book. I would encourage anyone that really wants to dive into what emotions mean, how to navigate them. That is a wonderful book for people to look at. So, Brené, thank you for continuing to do the research and putting that out there for us, if by chance she's listening.
Yes.
We appreciate that, Miss Brené Brown. So, thank you for doing this topic, Jen, and thanks for being here again. And let's jump in a little bit to what I guess the first thing I'm going to ask you is what inspired you about this particular topic, Jen, when we were looking over topics to go over?
This one kind of spoke to me because even though love and hate are opposite, you can't have one without the other. And so I think they're connected in a way that we don't always think about. And especially when it comes to relationships, especially when it comes to divorce.
Right.
When you're angry and upset, it's a hate feeling, and on the opposite side is the love feeling. But you can't have hate if you never actually love them.
Oh, you're saying that hate doesn't exist if love wasn't present?
Yeah, there was a quote I found, you can only hate someone you have the capacity to love, because if you're really indifferent, you don't have enough energy to hate them.
Who said that?
Sri Shemnoy. I can't say his name right. I'm so sorry. He's an Indian philosopher.
Well, that's interesting. So you're basically saying, like, if you find yourself having hate towards someone, what you're really...
You have the capacity to love them as well.
Ooh.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, when you're dealing with divorce, that's inherent. You love this person, you married them.
Yeah.
And now you're divorcing them and you hate them. But you love them at some point.
Yeah. And so, well, then people start questioning, did I really love them?
Yeah, that's true.
You get that too. And it's like, would it be easier if you didn't? Would it be easier for you to kind of get through this?
It would be easier if you were indifferent, but at the same time, are you?
That's the point.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I love that, and I think the thing that's important there too is going, if this philosopher says, if you have the capacity to hate someone, then you actually have the capacity to love them.
Yeah.
Then don't you bear the burden of having to find a way to love them again?
Yes,
Even
but maybe in a different way.
Yeah, maybe even if it's not romantically. We're talking about maybe
you love them as being the mother of your child.
Mm-hmm.
They're a great mom.
Yeah, like
It's not a great partner.
What they used to call it, like Socratic love.
Yeah.
Is that what they meant by that? Or is that something else? What was it called? Like the type of love where you have toward like a really close friend.
Yeah.
Or someone, I care about them, but like I'm not romantically.
Exactly. It's platonic.
There's a platonic, Plato.
Yeah.
Which was the student of Socrates.
Yeah.
So platonic.
All this philosophy land.
Well,
going
you
into
took us
philosophy
there.
world. I know. Well, I mean, and I think that's the thing. Emotions can be very philosophical. And that's why they're hard to decipher.
Well, we a lot of us go through life trying to understand what our emotions mean.
Yeah.
We try to put meaning on what we feel.
Yeah.
And think about with children, when children respond or act out, we try to say, are you angry? Are you trying to get them to label
what it is.
that emotion? Yeah. And what's really amazing about emotions, what I've learned, and I think Brené Brown would agree with me on this, but there's only like a core set of emotions, and then there's like all these emotions that are like
that feed into them.
Yeah, they're subconstructs of a major one.
Yeah.
Right? And so like...
I use that a lot in my sessions, actually.
Do people know that anxiety is not an emotion?
I don't think so.
Anxiety is not a feeling.
It's
Dread is a feeling.
Yes. Well, and it's funny because I actually use that construct of there's 7 major feelings that we go through. But anxiety can be in any of them.
Yeah.
It just depends on which way is it presenting to you.
Sure. And the meaning we put behind them. Absolutely. 100%. I told a kid the other day, I said, did you know that when you're excited and when you're anxious, your body actually has the same response?
Exactly. Because they're both anxiety.
Yeah. He goes, what do you mean? I was like, well, have you ever been like super excited and you get like sweaty palms and you're kind of jittery, right? And your heart starts racing a little bit because you're super excited.
Or you drink a lot of coffee.
There you go. But when you're anxious, it does the same thing.
Yeah.
Your heart's racing, your palms are sweaty. And so then you go, how you label it becomes the response to it, right? You could call it angst. You could call it excitement.
True.
Because I remember when I did theater, we'd be behind stage, the curtains down.
Yeah.
And we knew there was people, we hear people chattering out there. We're like, oh my gosh, it sounds like a lot of people. We have no clue. And so then the director comes to the back. Yeah. And it's like, it's a full house, guys. And then you had some people go, oh my gosh, I'm so nervous. And I was like, I can't wait till that curtain goes up. And so we're all experiencing the same thing.
Yeah.
But we're responding to it completely different. So let's jump into this love and hate topic. You had mentioned some words here that go with love. Let's go over that first.
Looking at that, well, I was kind of thinking about the definitions of love and hate.
Okay.
Love is when you have deep affection for a person or a practice. I mean, it can also be what you do for your life, what you do for fun. You can have a deep affection for it. It brings pleasure and enjoyment.
Yeah.
That's where love is greatest.
Yeah.
And that could be your kids, your spouse, your animals. It can be anything. It's what you feel because of these things in your life.
Yeah.
Hate, on the other side, is intense and passionate dislike, which is basically the opposite. So, I mean, if you think about it, you have love, which is a very intense feeling. Love and hate are both very intense.
Yeah, they're very intense feelings.
And they come across, just like anxiety comes across in different ways, they can come across with the same depth of feeling. The problem is separating which one's which.
Okay.
And, there was another quote that I found. Everything that irritates us about others can lead to an understanding about ourselves.
Huh.
The reason I bring this up, and this is by, I think, Carl Jung.
Yeah.
Because when we think about it, everything that makes you mad, it's making you mad. The other person isn't aggravated at you because they did something you didn't like.
Yeah.
But it teaches you something about yourself. And the more you can, when you think about love and hate, if you absolutely hate a person, what does that teach you about yourself?
What you're, let me use today's terminology to help explain Carl Jung.
Yes, because he's old.
Carl, I think he was a student of Freud.
Mm-hmm.
And
he's super old. And
yeah, they're way back there. But that quote, today's term, what we would use is the word trigger.
Yeah.
When you find yourself, I hate it too, but I'm going to use it because that's the terminology today. So when people say I was triggered or they triggered me, if they think about this quote, everything that irritates us about others, so anything that triggers you, can lead to an understanding of yourself.
Exactly.
So the trigger is actually really helpful if you use it to try to go, what is it about this that's causing me to react so intensely about it?
Honestly, that's how emotions are. How can I use my emotion to make myself better?
That's what emotions were designed for, I think.
Exactly. I think of Inside Out, the movie. I love that movie. But it's true. When you think about your emotions from a standpoint of how can I use it to benefit myself? How can I use it to make myself stronger or different? Instead of trying to avoid them, because we all want to avoid. We know that. But when you try to, and when you're talking about love and hate, trying to understand what is it about this that's making me feel this significant.
Yep.
Whether it's love or hate.
The intense love or the intense hate.
Yeah.
You know what I did to a couple of parents the other day? I had them in a session, and the parents seemed to be at the hate state, right, with one another. And I asked the child, I said, what could you do so that your parents wouldn't love you anymore? It was a teenage kid.
Yeah.
And they looked at me a little conflicted, like, man, what really, thinking like, what could I really do? I said, probably if I did this. I forget what they said, but they said like 2 or 3 different things. They said, if I did these things, I could see my parents not loving me.
Yeah.
I said, well, let's test it. Let's find out.
Okay.
So I pulled the parents in, and I asked the parents, I said, I have a question. I asked him, I want to ask you guys, and I want you to answer him, truthfully. I said, what could your child do? Because I know they hate each other, the parents. Yeah. But what could your child do to make you not love them? And they both looked at each other. They looked at me, looked at the kid. Everyone's looking around. And mom goes first, and mom goes, nothing.
Yeah.
Okay. Dad? He goes, nothing. This kid, I said, if this kid, and I went like, really like, if he murdered someone.
Murdered somebody, yeah. That's usually one of the things.
I was like, I'm going to go something like, probably could put him in prison for life or something, Would you not love him? And they said, no. I said, there's nothing this kid could do that would ever change the fact that you love them. I said, no. And I looked at them and I said, what does that tell you about love? When you really love someone, I truly believe it's an unconditional thing.
Yeah.
Now I can feel, and Dad said this actually in that session, is I would be very disappointed.
Yeah.
I'd be heartbroken, hurt, probably worried.
But you still love.
Bingo.
Yeah.
But it would not change the fact that I love them.
Well, and it's funny because I think of hate that way.
Tell me.
You can hate someone and have these intense feelings, but you still care about them. And that's okay.
Correct.
It kind of goes into our next little topic about the impact of love and hate on relationships and the divorce.
Right.
You can easily go from one to the other.
Yeah.
It's hard because you love someone so much, but there's such disappointment and frustration that you flip to the other side.
Sure.
In both feelings, love and hate, they say love is blind. So is hate. You can't see anything else except that one thing that irritates you or that it's bothering you or that I can't get past this one thing, whether it's love or hate.
Yeah.
Sometimes you only see the good. You don't see the red flags. Sometimes you only see the bad and you don't see the things that are great about the person. Yeah. And it becomes an issue.
So the fear of the hurt. And so then what I look at that point is going, if what you're saying is accurate, which I don't think it's not, I've seen it. It almost would be the question to the person is, this hurt that you've experienced that has caused you to hate this person as much as you have.
Yeah. It
seems so intense that I'm wondering if you holding on to that hurt is more important than you wanting to get to a solution.
Yeah. And that I think is one of the biggest issues we come across in relationships.
Yeah.
Is the hurt more than the feeling of relief?
What does it potentially cost you to hold on to this hurt?
Oh, so many things.
Exactly. And I think that's my therapy.
So much energy to hold on to hurt.
Yeah.
That you don't have the capacity for other things and you lose sight of what's really important. And that could be your kid.
Yeah.
Who's in the middle of this.
Yeah, I said something that's biblical the other day to someone. I said, Jesus actually said it. He said, you see the splinter in your brother's eye, but not the log in your own.
Yeah.
And I know, the difference between a splinter and a log?
A log.
And I think he's telling us, like, why don't you check yourself first, And I don't know if clients know this. I'm going to give them a little secret, but when we're in session, I'm constantly evaluating myself.
Yeah.
In my therapeutic intervention, I'm constantly thinking about how could I ask that better, or what did I pick up on? And the other day, I do co-therapy. Like Ariana's here now, and we do co-therapy. She's doing co-therapy with us, but I'll ask her, like, what did you find helpful, like in what I did? And I'm constantly in a state of wanting to know how to grow better and be better at what I'm doing.
Well, and every person is different. So you may try something with one person, it doesn't quite work with someone else. And you have to adjust what you do and how you do it.
Yep.
But that's the same way with any relationship. You have your kid who wants they're throwing a fit because they want a toy and you said no.
Yeah.
And how do you handle it?
Correct. And
and what works for one kid may not work for the other one.
What didn't work in your marriage may work in your divorce, and what worked in your marriage may not work in your divorce. And so you constantly have to evaluate, how you help that happen. So I'm really glad you said that. I want to go over this love and attachment thing.
Oh, yeah. That goes along with this, too.
Yeah.
Love and attachment is different than love and hate.
Right. And I'm going to actually pull that from Brené's deal.
We were talking about this yesterday.
So this is actually straight out of the book. It says, the near enemy of love is attachment. Attachment masquerades as love. It says, I will love this person because I need something from them. Or, I'll love you if you love me back. Or, I love you, but only if you'll be the way I want. This is not the fullness of love. Instead, there's attachment. There's a clinging and a fear. True love allows, honors, appreciates. Attachment grasps, demands, needs, and aims to possess.
Yeah.
And I think this is what's really interesting, because how many times have we seen parents who say they love, which I don't disagree they love, but the attachment is really what they're chasing.
Yeah.
And so it looks like love. It masquerades as love, is the statement there.
Well, and I think I just had a thought in my head. I think that's one where therapy actually comes in.
Mm-hmm.
Because attachment is a therapeutic word.
Yes, it is.
And it's something that we can definitely work on in adjusting how you think and how you feel about yourself and or others.
Yes.
So, but the problem is if you think it's love, it's conditional. This is where it's different. Love is unconditional. Attachment is not. It's conditional.
I think that's the biggest part, because it's a clinging and a fear.
Yeah.
Yeah, as she said it earlier. So I want to go into this healing part.
Mm-hmm.
You talked about the heal and managing emotion. Can you tell me more about that?
Well, I think about it. I mean, emotions are there. We all have them. A lot of people like to pretend like they don't have emotions. I had a kid tell me once he was an alien. He didn't have emotions at all.
Which probably means, my first assumption therapeutically would be that you're so overwhelmed by the emotions.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Like when you say you're numb, you're really saying I'm overwhelmed.
Yeah. You get to the point where it's so much feeling you just can't deal with any of it.
Yeah.
And Brené Brown, there's other things that came from her. Learning how to be vulnerable and empathetic, those are skills. They're not feelings. Empathy is not a feeling. It's a skill. You have to learn to be empathetic with someone.
Which requires vulnerability.
It requires vulnerability, which can be strength. It's scary.
Well, Brené calls vulnerability a strength. It's more courageous to be vulnerable than to not be. Yeah.
But it's very fearful to be vulnerable because then you might get hurt.
Well, how about this? I'll just say it this way. You will.
Oh, yeah. It's true. I think at some point you will. And
if you're not afraid to avoid the fact of being hurt,
true,
but work through the hurt,
yeah,
that's where the other side that you're craving is. It's on the other side of it.
Well, and it goes back to the basic emotions.
Yeah.
Of how we handle our emotions, how we manage them, learning from our emotions, being able to take them and say, okay, this hurts, but what can I learn from it?
Mm-hmm.
And when you think about love in the sense of how to heal, love includes boundaries, accountability, being responsible for yourself and your own actions.
Boundaries aren't what you put on others. I just want to clear that up for people. Boundaries are what you put on yourself.
Exactly. A lot of people think it is, well, no, you can't do that. No.
It's not a boundary, it's a request.
It's about you.
Yeah.
It's always about you. And I think it's hilarious because a lot of times people come in here, they're mad about their spouse, they're mad about their kids, they don't know what to do with it.
Right.
But really, it all goes back to you.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes back to that, what irritates you about others is really about yourself. So a lot of times we have to go back and figure out, how do I really feel about this situation and how can I make it better?
100%. And go ahead.
I was going to say the other side of that was hate it's a fear and a lack of empathy. And when you think about hate in that way, that fear, is the fear going to overcome everything else?
Yeah.
Is it going to overtake everything else? We can be scared. People are scared of heights. People are scared of spiders. The only way through that is to gain knowledge about them. Why am I afraid of them? What are they going to do to me?
Right.
When you get around a spider, what do? They typically run away because they're more scared of you than you are of them.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't change the fact that you're still scared.
No, I told someone the other day, I said, I can't take away a fear. I can only increase the confidence.
Yeah.
You know, like my son, he's standing on the end of the pool. He wants to jump. So he's on a ledge. This is years ago. And I keep encouraging him, jump. I'll catch you. I'll catch you. I'm in the pool. So I'm in the pool. He's on the ledge. And I'm like, jump. I'll catch you. And he's contemplating, should I jump? Should I not jump? You could see it. I could see his brain going. And I looked at him and I said, do you know what that is that you're dealing with, son? I said, it's fear.
Yeah.
And I said, you're afraid to jump because you're telling yourself something's going to happen if you do.
Yeah.
And I said, so you have a choice. You either get to trust the fear that you have, or you can trust my hands that I'll catch you.
Yeah.
Right? Because I can't take away that fear. I can only try to increase your confidence by telling you I'm right here to catch you.
Exactly.
Well, he decided to jump. So I guess he trusted my hands more than he trusted his fear. And when he landed in the pool and I caught him, and you could just see the excitement in his face because he did it, right?
He's like,
he overcame that fear.
I got it.
Well, now he's getting out of the pool and he's want to do it more and more. And so now I'm catching him 20 times. My arms are tired at this point. I'm like, okay, we can't do that anymore. But it just goes to show you, like, some of the greatest experiences we've ever had in life is overcoming that fear.
Yeah.
Because I think on the other side of that fear, we begin to love the feeling we have of conquering things within ourselves.
It's funny. I actually think of marriage that way.
You think of marriage like that?
Because you have to take, to actually marry a person.
Yeah.
I think for most people, it's a fear of letting go of yourself in a way and creating a bond with someone else.
Right.
And it's such a scary thought. We're like, what if they hurt me? What if they do this? Especially if you've been hurt in the past.
Correct.
And that's hard to overcome. But it's interesting because the love in it can totally outweigh the fear.
Sure.
But then you get to the point where you're in the process of getting divorced.
Yeah.
And you have the other fear of, well, now how do I do all this by myself?
Oh, sure.
And
Sure.
It's just working through those thoughts and feelings of how you get through all of it.
Yeah, I think
thinking about both sides of it.
Yeah, I think if you're overwhelmed by the fear, it really just means fear to me is a lack of knowledge. It's what I don't know.
Exactly.
And it just means you have to slow down, do one step at a time, and gain the information that you desire, because that's what increases the confidence and then lessens the fear within itself. So let me go over this. Yeah, I'll go over this real quick. I want to go over those two quotes again. So the one with Carl Jung is, everything that irritates us about others can lead to an understanding of ourselves.
Yes.
Beautiful. The other one, how do you say that name? Sri
Chinmoy.
Shimnoy? Okay. Love it. You can only hate someone you have the capacity to love, because if you are really indifferent, you cannot get up enough energy to hate them.
Yeah.
Anyway, well, I just want to leave people with that. I think that's heavy. It's beautiful. It's definitely something I want people to ponder.
Mm-hmm.
Jen, thank you. I really like this topic. I think I liked it more when I talked through it than I did just seeing it. I was like, well, yeah, Brené Brown. But talking through it's fun. So thank you for doing that with me. I want to thank you all, the listeners, for being here. Those ones that have continued to follow us and give us feedback. I know I said a while back that we were hoping people will write some more questions in, or comments, or just shoot some things at us so we can.
Questions.
Well, we like to collaborate, so we're big on that stuff, and so feel free. We'd love to hear from you, and we want to thank you so much for being so active and for following us. We have Instagram, Facebook, and then we have all the platforms on podcast and YouTube. I'm really surprised we've actually had a lot of people watch us on YouTube, which is really cool.
I haven't watched us.
Well, some don't have a lot of views, but there's others that have a ton of views. And so I just want to thank you for those individuals who are really taking their time to really dive in and get to know us. And so thank you for that. We appreciate you so much. And you guys keep moving forward. Thanks, everyone.